What's up, invaders? It is your favorite Martian, Skylar Mars, bringing you to another episode of the Mars TV podcast. This is the kind of show where we ask tough people tough questions, and today will be no different. My guest at this time has requested I do a Howard Finkel impression, so we're already off to a good start. In this corner, who do you love? It's Greg Romero!
The crowd goes mild.
I can't go nearly as deep as Howard Finkel. That would be nearly impossible.
Oh no, that's fine. That was A-okay.
Alright. How you doing today, Greg?
I'm doing alright, man. How are you?
I'm doing
Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Some of my favorite guests, actually most of my favorite guests have all been stars of Western American indie wrestling. So it's nice to continue our little theme we have going on.
Yeah, right on, man. Thank you.
Alright, so I want to say discovered you in WCWC not too long ago. It was right before you started tagging with Ricky Gibson.
Uh-huh.
And I gotta say, that has to be my fondest memory, I have to say, is you, Ricky Gibson, and Mr. Tubbs taking every opportunity to cheat and hitting people over the head with 8 balls. That's amazing. I have a question as to how that kind of came about, because, you know, that seemed like a little bit of a random tag team, but it just worked so well. You meshed incredibly quickly.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, it actually was totally random. The owner of WCWC, Jeff Manning, he was kind of trying to throw people together and kind of trying to change things up, because that was when he opened Paragon Pro Wrestling. So he was kind of just trying to stir the pot a little bit and mix things up. And it's really funny, because the reason they paired us up together is because we both wore leather jackets and aviator shades. There was no other reason for the pairing other than that.
It seems like a perfectly reasonable reason to have two people become a tag team.
Right, yeah, makes sense.
If that's the case, then how did Mr. Tubbs get thrown into the mix?
Mr. Tubbs was actually my manager for that. I really don't know how they did it. I just showed up one day and they just had my name on the match card, said with Mr. Tubbs. And I had met him beforehand. I had met him a few months before that when I first went to WC. And he was actually really cool, really awesome backstage, awesome dude. So, you know, I was happy about it. If he was a douchebag, of course, I would have been disappointed. I probably would have made a fuss about it, but he ended up being really cool. And then, again, same thing with Ricky Gibson. I showed up to the show, flew to Oregon, showed up to the show, looked at the match card, and it said Greg Romero and Ricky Gibson tagging. I was like, well, okay, that's kind of weird. But I had already seen Gibson's stuff beforehand, and he was pretty good, man. I guess he had been wrestling quite a few years beforehand, so I mean, it showed. So, yeah.
And the 8-ball thing, I understand that WCWC is in part booked. We really don't do kayfabe on the show. I guess I forgot to warn you on that.
That's fine. Yeah, no worries.
Is in part booked by the Grappler. And, you know, he being the guy who used to do, you know, Loaded Boot and all that, it seems like something that he probably would have come up with. So, that's just my theory, but who came up with the 8-ball?
That was actually my doing, and ironically, he actually did not want me to do it. He actually didn't like it. He thought it was phony. He didn't think I could figure out a way to hit somebody with an 8-ball without actually killing them, you know. My original idea was going to be a pool cue. It was supposed to be a pool cue, and you know, I was going to have it, you know, be able to unscrew it, use 2 pieces, or just have the 1 piece and swing it, use it as a weapon. But I was flying back and forth from here to Oregon every month. And apparently, you can't bring a pool cue on the plane, which is, it's a weird thing, but you couldn't bring a pool cue on the plane. So I decided, oh man, well, I kind of want to get this billiards type thing over, you know. And so I decided the 8-ball. Plus, there's a lot of cool symbolism behind the 8-ball. You know, win 8-ball, you could win the match, you lose the match, you know. So that's kind of how that came about.
That's really interesting,
It just stuck. Yeah.
It does really fit with the Who do you hate t-shirt.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I don't know, wait, was that ever a t-shirt or was that just a sign a guy held in the crowd?
It was just a sign, but it actually caught on. Like, whenever I would yell, "Who do you love?" they would chant back, "Who do you hate?"
That totally should have been a t-shirt.
Yeah, I could have made some good money off that.
Oh yeah. Which, speaking of which, I've seen your pictures on Facebook how either you or just somebody you know is photoshopping your current t-shirt onto any other famous person with wearing a black t-shirt. That is incredible salesmanship on your part.
Thank you, man. Yeah, that's actually a good buddy of mine. Well, I know you guys aren't really into kayfabe, but I'd rather not say who he is. But he's also a worker on the West Coast here in Vegas too. So it's actually me and his doing. I come up with the ideas and I tell him, "Hey, Photoshop this onto fucking ICP's T-shirt, or Photoshop it onto Brian Pillman's T-shirt, whatever," and he gets it to me. So that's just something I randomly came up with.
My favorite one was the one where you photoshopped a DDP wearing your T-shirt, because I feel like he totally rocked that shirt.
Right, right. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm only picking like certain people that it would look right on. Like again, like the Pillman thing. DDP, Steve Austin. It's like people that would actually agree with the things that I do or say.
Oh yeah. And that's. You said he was another worker in West Coast American pro wrestling, which is starting to become my personal favorite scene, not just because I live out here, because there's just a lot of colorful characters and whatnot. And you've worked in FSW, WCWC, and Paragon, and probably some others that I did not put on the list. What do you think?
Yeah, I've actually started at FSW. I've been at FSW not since day one, but since I first started, had my first match there, and I've been there ever since. Been kicked out quite a few times, but
I mean, it's an incredible scene. The West Coast scene is incredible. It doesn't really get a lot of as much viewing as I think it should. But what do you think about the West Coast scene and just being a part of it?
I think it's booming. I think now is the best time for West Coast wrestling. Especially outside of California. I think California's kind of been like the big time, the one that everybody always talks about, but people don't realize there's Vegas, there's Reno, there's all the cities in Arizona, there's Oregon, there's even New Mexico. There's places like that people aren't really seeing or noticing, but they're definitely worth a watch. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
I mean, I think it's great. Somebody needs to book you down here in Arizona.
I actually did Arizona last week. I did Unleashed Wrestling. I wrestled Jace Battle.
Oh wow, that's awesome! Man, with as busy of a schedule as I have, there wasn't very many people in the
crowd, but they were pretty hot.
Oh yeah, with as busy of a schedule as I have, it's always really hard to get to certain wrestling shows that I'm not. I want to say working for, because I'm not a wrestler as of yet, but I do work for promotions, doing little jobs, try and learn as much as I can.
Oh, right on, man. That's good.
Now, one thing I was very curious about is the greaser look, because, I mean, that was the only way I could find to describe it. I don't know if that was exactly what you were going for. But why? Because, I mean, it worked out. It did, but, I feel like I'm thinking about how I would make that work. And other than how you did it, I can't think of another way. Why was the greaser look your choice?
Well, I mean, that's how I dress in real life, first of all. Also, most of the celebrities and people that I really, look up to, I guess, all kind of sport that same kind of cool guy kind of look. There's James Dean. I've always been a real big fan of. I'm a huge Social Distortion fan. I'm a big time stand-up comedy fan, and Andrew Dice Clay is a huge inspiration. Just people like that, for example. Also, the greaser type of thing. That's the thing. I never say the word greaser. It's kind of like the word zombie on The Walking Dead. Nobody ever says zombie, but, obviously that's what it is.
That's pretty true.
But, right. And I always bitch at commentators all the time, dude, stop saying greaser. Stop it. Oh, yeah, sure. Sorry, man, But, anyway, what was I saying? I kind of lost track. Right, yeah, I was just saying, it's that kind of cool guy look, kind of persona. And that's, like I said, that's how I dress in real life. But before I was just kind of wearing just generic green tights with my name on them, with a little, denim vest and sunglasses. And the reason I started wearing the jeans and the leather and everything, it was actually, I had a ladder match one time. It was back in early 2015. I had a ladder match. It was like an 8-man ladder match. And I was like, oh man, this is cool. I'm gonna dress in plain clothes. I'm gonna dress in street clothes. And, set myself apart. That's like the big thing that everybody does. Hardcore matches,
Oh yeah.
So I came to the ring, carrying out the ladder, and I had a leather jacket, aviator shades, my hair all done up. I had regular jeans on, and then just cowboy boots. And everybody backstage was like, "Dude, is that your new gimmick? Is that your new look?" It's like, no, that's just this is how I dress, and I'm just doing the whole street clothes thing. And everybody's clamoring like, "Dude, that's fucking badass. That's awesome. You should do that. You should do that." And I'm like, no. I don't know. I'm not into that. Because I've always been more of a fan of traditional wrestling gear, tights, boots, knee pads, stuff like that.
Always.
But, right. So, yeah, and after that, I started wearing the jeans to the ring. It just kind of came about that way. First, I started off with the jeggings, I guess, as people would say. There's just, the tights with the jean material printed on. Then I evolved and started wearing more stretchy jeans and actual jeans. Now I actually just wear really tight jeans, and they're all ripped up and stuff. So
I've noticed.
I guess that's just how it came about. Nothing really specific. Nothing really. I just decided. But But sorry, I keep cutting you off.
No, it's perfectly fine. Story time is what this show is for. Oh man. Another thing I wanted to ask you about was something you mentioned just in casual conversation with you and me. I mean, if you want to pass over this question, because I don't know how he would feel about it, but you mentioned that your best friend in the world is CTC, Cutthroat Cody. If you're at liberty to talk about that, go ahead, but we could just skip over that if you don't want to.
Oh, yeah, no, I'd love to. Yeah, I met him back in 2011. I had been training and wrestling for a little while before I met him, and I met him at one of the FSW shows, and I was just a brand new student. I was a couple months in, but he actually took his time to, give me advice and talk to me. And he had already been wrestling for about 4 years or so, 3 years. It was just really cool of him to talk to me. And, I was dealing with, people being assholes and, certain things that would bother me. But he was always really cool. And then he started offering me rides to shows and stuff because I was only 17 years old when I first started training. And I didn't have a driver's license or anything yet, so I was taking the bus all the time to practice. And he started offering me rides to practice, and we started talking and hanging out. And we both figured out that we both love, comic books and video games and certain movies and shit like that. We realized we had a lot in common. So, yeah, we've just been hanging out ever since. We've been, excellent friends. Between Cody and Nick Bugatti, those are my two best friends in the entire world, so...
Nick Bugatti, that is not something I expected.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a random thing, but yeah, that dude's... Those two, yeah, like I said, my best friends.
Three very different, seemingly very different personalities.
Right. Very.
Oh, God. That actually is a good transition. You mentioned, playing video games, comic books, and stuff, and you have a Wolverine tattoo.
I do, yes.
What I'm very tempted to have as the thumbnail of this episode is the picture of you riding a skateboard down to the ring. And I guess one of the things I wanted to comment on is that you are very into geek culture.
Yes, very.
I mean,
yeah. And that's kind of the thing that I've always liked to portray. People in real life, people in reality, they always assume, oh, that guy's, he's a cool guy, he's a tough guy, he's a jock or whatever, he's not going to be into shit like that. But that's always my thing. I've always kind of like to walk that line between, I don't know, it's kind of like if you're in high school and you see all the cool guys and shit, you're never going to be like, oh, that guy probably plays Zelda on the weekends, or, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of just try to be broad and let people know, hey, you can like whatever you want. Nobody's going to tell you otherwise. People see this, this arrogant, slick back, leather clad asshole, but then I have a Wolverine tattoo. It's like, the hell?
It's a great tattoo too. I've seen pictures. I don't know if these are from fans or if you did them, but it's pictures of them making you in different video games, and half the time they just straight up draw on the Wolverine tattoo just for the picture.
Yeah, no, that's all me.
That's all you...
Yeah.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I even drew a Wolverine mask over my first grade photo. Just, I don't know, it's just a random thing I do when I get bored.
I think it's fantastic. It's extremely entertaining. Like,
thank you, man.
One of the things that's amazing to me and why I thought that this episode would be so much fun is that, like, you portray, like, such a, you know, like, the leather-clad, you know, like, guy who probably was a jock in high school, like you said earlier. But, like, you seem like a very laid back and very, you know, just fun. That was one of the things that excited me about this episode.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty simple in real life, dude. I mean, I like wrestling. I like, you know, I like playing Tony Hawk games. I like, you know, like I'm just chill, dude. I don't really do much besides hang out with my lady and go to wrestling practice, go to shows, go to work, you know, shit like that, dude.
Always.
Not a very complex person. I don't really do much.
What are some of your favorite video games?
Oh, my all-time favorite video game is Super Mario 64.
Oh,
it's the first one I ever owned, and it is the greatest game ever made. One of my most prized possessions is actually my Nintendo 64. I still play it to this day.
I do not blame you. I've been looking for one forever.
Oh, man, yeah. Oh, they run pretty expensive now. Yeah, man, but video games, like I said, I've always been a huge fan of the Tony Hawk series. May they rest in peace. Obviously, wrestling games, those are amazing. Yeah, other than that, man, just kind of pick up some random old school games, old school skateboarding games, wrestling games. A lot of PlayStation 1, N64, stuff like that. That's another thing me and CTC had in common, like our love for video games, and he's even introduced me to plenty of amazing games that I missed out on growing up.
And I'm gonna make a shot in the dark. Your favorite superhero is Wolverine.
Yes, even though he's not a superhero, he is a mutant. Get it right.
You know what? You're very.
Just kidding.
Oh man. So let me ask you, how long have you been wrestling?
Let me see. 6 years now.
6 years. That's
yeah,
wow. You
December will actually
a lot.
be my 6-year anniversary.
Oh, that's incredible.
My debut, I should say.
I don't mean to be bootlicking, but I would have pegged you for having wrestled a lot longer because you seem pretty clean.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, it's been training just about every day for 6 years. Kind of dedicated everything to it.
I'd say you'd come out pretty clean after a schedule like that.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I'd say you'd come out pretty clean after a schedule like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I was trained by really good people too, so that's a blessing.
Where'd you train?
What's that? I'm sorry, I can't really hear you.
Sorry, where'd you train?
I trained at FSW.
That's right, I forgot.
Future Stars of Wrestling here in Vegas. Yeah. I was initially trained by Mike Modest, and then trained a lot by Remy Marcel and Jack Manley.
I need to get them on the
I'm
show.
sure you know about them, yeah.
Almost had Remy on my show 3 times, but scheduling is terrible.
Oh, yeah. That dude's awesome. He'd be a blast to have on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But, Mike Modest, D'Lo Brown had a huge hand in training me. Sin Bodie actually really had a huge hand in it. Yeah, and then just aside from that, just doing seminars and stuff like that. It's mostly experience that just got me better. Kenny King's another one I should attribute.
Where are some cool places you've been during your 6 years on the road?
Oh man, the furthest I've ever been was Wisconsin. Wrestled out in Wisconsin for about a month and a half. Was out there wrestling like every weekend out there.
Nice.
That was a blast. That was much different. All those guys out there are such a brotherhood. It's really cool.
I just hope not the X-Men type of brotherhood, because they're evil.
Right? Oh, that's good.
Well, I guess in retrospect, if you were going to fight someone for the Brotherhood, it should be Aaron Stevens Magneto.
Oh, perfect.
That would be...
Perfect. We are the cure!
Yes! Finally. This is a running joke I have on my channel here. I have a dream card, and it just gets longer with every episode. I add another dream match, and that's on the card.
Nice.
Greg Romero versus Magneto, played by Aaron Stevens.
Book it.
It is booked. Oh, God.
Yeah, right?
Oh, man. I would make such a great promoter.
Yeah, totally.
Alright, what are some of the favorite people you've wrestled during your 6 years on the road? I keep saying on the road, I'm not sure why.
You're good, man. Yeah, favorite people. I'll definitely put Remy Marcel out there. It's actually funny because I trained with him for the first, actually the whole time I've been wrestling, but it took me about 5 years to finally be booked in a match against him. And it's actually funny because our first match, it was out in Oregon. It was at a little house show at a middle school. It was in Salem, Oregon, I believe. And we were so excited. We're like, dude, this is fucking 5 years coming. This is awesome. I can't wait. So we planned out this finish, and we did the whole match, and it went smooth. We're like, dude, this is excellent. And he hit me with the crossbody, and he pinned me, and it was toward the end of the match, so I kind of stalled on kicking out. And 1, 2, I kicked out right before 3, and the ref still counted 3. So Remy and I were like, what the fuck, dude? What the hell? So the bell rings, match is over, whatever. So we're backstage. We're like, dude, what the hell? We're asking the ref. Ref's like, oh, man, you didn't kick out. I'm like, yes, I did. What the fuck? So, that was our first encounter. We've had several others. We had that whole the feud with the tag titles out in Oregon against Whirlwind Gentlemen. Other favorite people to wrestle. Actually, one of my all-time favorite people to wrestle was actually this newer guy out in Oregon. His name is Marcus Malone.
Love him.
He's only been training for about a year or so.
Really?
Yeah. He's pretty brand new, but he's awesome, dude. He's humble. His ring work is clean as hell.
I know exactly who Malone is. That's why it surprises me when you say a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Trying to think of more people that I just adore wrestling. I don't know, man. The list is kind of big. Those two are the big standouts.
They definitely stick out because they were the first to come to mind.
Yeah.
What are some places you'd like to go?
That I would like to go?
Yes.
Well, for some reason, I've always wanted to wrestle out in New York. Just because I've always known that was like the big, WWF big thing. New York and Atlanta. I'm a huge WCW fan. Always have been. And obviously, Atlanta, it's the big, placeholder of WCW. Is that what you meant? Like, geographically, where would I like to go?
Both, I guess. Things you, where would you like to go professional wrestling, I guess, as a whole, and obviously geographically.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I really don't know exactly where I want to go. I never, obviously WWE would be cool, TNA would be cool. But I just feel like if you plan too much, then you don't really enjoy the journey. You just focus on the destination, which is never a good thing.
That's actually
so
really
lately,
cool.
I've just kind of been enjoying what I'm doing. I've been really, really happy. Because for a while, I was pretty miserable. I was pretty bitter toward wrestling for a number of reasons. And, sometime this year, I kind of just had a new life breathed into it. Been happy. Been just wanting to wrestle everywhere I possibly can. And whether it's a big casino show or whether it's the outside of a fucking taco festival. I'm just happy to be here, as my friend CTC would put it.
That is a pretty great way to put it.
But like I said, sorry, one more thing. Like I said, if you're focusing on trying to get somewhere, everything else is just gonna seem subpar. If my destination is WWE, nothing else is gonna make me as happy as that. So, just kind of see where it's gonna take me.
It's weird how much I have in common with a lot of the guests on my show. Oh man, like even down to the freaking philosophies.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
All right, and when did you know that this was the career of choice for you?
Say that one more time.
When did you know that wrestling was the career of choice for you?
Oh man, this is pretty cliche, but definitely since I was a little kid.
Of course.
I always, like I said, I was a huge WCW fan. I was always more of a WCW fan than WWF. And I would always look up to fucking, the NWO, Sting, Goldberg, people like that. I was never a fan of the cruiserweights, believe it or not. I was always more of a fan of the big dudes. So, yeah. I mean, I knew that's all I wanted to do.
Pretty incredible.
Just like, yeah, wrestling, that's it. And I always tell people the reason I became a wrestler is because I always wanted to be either a superhero or a Backstreet Boy. And pro wrestling is the only way that I could be both.
That might be the single greatest thing I've ever heard. Wrestling, man, those are... Oh, yeah, this is a great night, man.
Yeah.
All right. And as we wind down there, the last question I always ask every guest on my show, as this is about wrestling and as I am in training, I always ask, what is the best advice you have for people who want to be wrestlers?
Don't. Just kidding. Totally kidding. Best advice I could give, other than quitting the business?
Other than quitting the business.
Other than don't be a pro wrestler? Stay humble, man. Stay humble. I mean, I've even been guilty of, being a little arrogant sometimes, and it's not good. It does nothing but, give you trouble. I mean, I'm sure you've heard me be announced as the bridge burner, Greg Romero, and it's not a term of endearment, really. It's kind of a moniker that I've kind of earned from not being humble. It's not a good thing.
I've actually never heard that, the bridge burner thing, but if that name was 100% kayfabe, that'd actually be really cool.
Oh no, it's real.
Oh gosh.
It is real.
That's very different in that context.
I've pissed a lot of people off. Not proud of it, but it is what it is. People that I care about, they're all still here. They're still around. But yeah, man, my advice, like I said, be humble. Don't let anybody get to you. Do what you want. Don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise. I've built a career on doing what the fuck I want.
All right, and thank you very much, Mr. Romero, for being a guest on my program.
Oh man, that's it? Are we done?
We're done, sir. It usually doesn't run very much longer than half an hour unless we get a little crazy with it. I mean, but hey, man, this probably won't be the last time I have you on my show. At your request, if I can get CTC and you at the same time, I'm down.
Yeah, man, me and him got some crazy stories to tell together,
All right. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
Even if you can get me, him, and Bugatti together, that'd be cool too.
You, him, and Bugatti. If you guys can all get either in the same place, or if I can get some kind of group chat working, we're doing that easily.
Hell yeah, man! I'm down.
All right. All right. Is there anything you'd like to plug before we break off the air?
Anything I'd like to plug? Not really, man. I'm good.
Don't know why I said on the air. This is pre-recorded.
What's that?
I don't know why I said on the air. This is pre-recorded.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is live, and now I'm nervous.
No. I'm sorry about that.
No worries, man.
Thank you very much, folks.
All right, man. Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me, my friend.
No problem at all. Hopefully we can get you, Bugatti, and CTC on the show at the same time.
Yeah, definitely, brother.
All right. We're going to let you go, folks. I hope you have all have had a nice time chatting with me and who I have dubbed the man with an 8-ball in his hand and isn't afraid to use it, Mr. Greg Romero.
Right on, right on.
Let's get that on a t-shirt, too. All right, we'll see you, folks. Later days.